Hello and welcome to the TradeSite U.S. Stocks and Futures Market Preview for the week beginning Monday, December 21st, 2015, ending Friday the 25th, but really Thursday the 24th, which is a half day, so maybe Wednesday the 23rd. Welcome to the holidays. We'll see what we get. Here's a look at the ES front-month futures contract. After shooting up on the original announcement of the rate hike on Wednesday, the market then rolled back over on Thursday and even more so on Friday, giving us the lowest close since back in early October on the ES itself, the broad market. Interesting setup. There's nothing pretty about that, and so much for the Santa Claus rally. It just doesn't exist, obviously, this year. So it's been an odd year. We feel like everything's shifted by about 3 weeks what you normally get. The bottom that starts the rally in the middle of October started in the end of September. The Santa Claus rally has held, not really held, but we've had one in the bigger stocks that are up more for the year. But here we are at holiday season, and things potentially, we'll see how it goes, potentially rolling over here. But the one thing that keeps dropping, crude oil, new low closed at 36.06. Gold on the other hand, up 15.9, did not make a new low. Got a decent bounce instead. S&P ended up losing 36.34. That's interesting on a triple expiration Friday. It was gapped down a small amount. It was fairly flat early, which you would expect for expiration Friday, but then it did kind of get negative later on in the session. That's not great. Here's a look at the Nasdaq 100 index. Lost 83 points on Friday. Again, unusual for a triple expiration, so we'll see if that's going to lead to something else here in the week ahead while everybody's focusing on friends and family. SOX down just 8 points, not a big deal there. Biotech index down 22, also not a big deal. So it was a really broad market sell-off in some of the bigger pieces, but again, strange to see that this late in the year at this time of year. So the VIX up 1.76, back above 20 for the close, and it was much higher. Trend closed at 1.66. And because of the super high 3.5 reading we got on Thursday, the 10-day moving average is now 1.30. So nothing telling there. Nasdaq volume 3 billion shares, but remember this is triple expiration, and again it was the one for the end of the year as well. So you got to expect that a lot of options positions transferring into stock trades that have to be closed out. It's not real volume. Typically, it doesn't. The triple expiration Fridays in December, March, June, and September always have big volume. You can see the high dots here on the year. The September one was also pretty high. The June one was pretty high. If I go back, you'll see there's March pretty high as well. So the only other day we had that was big was in August, was not a triple expiration. Other than that, the 3 biggest volume days of the year were the triple expiration Fridays. And again, it's largely meaningless volume. Nasdaq advanced decline ratio negative 851. It's not as bad as you might have thought considering the sell-off. And on the New York, negative 938. Remember, that means 938 more stocks were down than up on the Nasdaq for Friday. Google lost 13 points, but it is still hanging near the highs. Remember, this is a stock that's got under a week or two before anybody's going to really want to sell it. After that, we'll see. Apple's not so lucky. It hasn't really been up for the year, so they don't mind selling that one. Dropped $2.95, and it looks like it's in trouble heading back. Remember, except for the crash day in August, this is basically the low of the year for Apple now. Amazon, a 13 sell signal on Thursday. And now it's starting to roll over. Lost 6.5 points on Friday. Netflix lost 4.5 points on Friday. All right, so what do we have left? Oh, let's take a look at what the action was for the week in 10-minute candles. So the Monday was a flat opening. Tried to go both directions. Closed basically flat. Little rally late in the day. Tuesday, the gap up and dead flat. Again, remember we had a Fed meeting stirring at that point in time, so not much happened there. Everybody waits for the Fed. Wednesday, you get the gap up and then sell off to fill the gap ahead of the Fed. Then you got the spike down and back up on the Fed news, and then rallied hard into the close. That's what got everybody so excited. Thursday, a flat opening, but then we rolled. And all that really did, if you look at it, is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday basically was almost for nothing, which is fine. You sold off a little bit very late Thursday, but we still had the gap to go back and fill from a technical perspective from Monday's close into Tuesday. So, that's actually fine too. That's not really telling. It's Friday that's kind of a surprise because a small gap down, we did not fill the gap. Like I said, most of the day was uneventful. Coming out of lunch, we were, only a couple points lower than where we started the session, and then they sold it off after that. So that's what's interesting. We'll see what that really leads to. And if you look at this on the Nasdaq futures, by the way, takes you back to the low of the week. Again, for the whole week, is it overly disturbing? No, because we closed right about where we closed the prior week. Matter of fact, an hour before the close of the market on Friday, we were even for the week on both the ES and the NQs. So it's not a big deal, but at the same time, kind of is. It doesn't look pretty. And on top of it, we'll see where the futures open uh, on Monday. That could be a totally different picture at that point in time. We got a short week. Let's go through the economic data. There's no data due on Monday. Tuesday is the third look. This is the final number of GDP for the third quarter. Not usually a big deal. We've got the housing price index at 9 a.m. Eastern time, existing home sales at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Wednesday, we've got the MBA mortgage index. We've got durable orders. We've got PC prices. We've got personal income and spending. So all that doesn't really add up to much. New home sales 30 minutes into the market, along with Michigan sentiment. And then crude oil inventories. And then Thursday, which is Christmas Eve, the initial and continuing jobless claims, that's the weekly number, and natty gas. No data Friday because banks and the markets are closed. Thursday is also a half day. Nobody will be trading that. Here's how this goes. We'll have stock picks for Monday in the report that comes out for Monday. And then it's all about how the volume is. If the volume drops off already, then we probably will just call it from the tape intraday on Tuesday and Wednesday. No trading on Thursday for the half day. On the other hand, if we get decent volume on Monday, because we do have a few days here before the holiday really hits, we'll continue to try to make calls for Tuesday and maybe Wednesday. Next week, we will make calls only on Monday in the report. Everything else is just called from the tape for the last week of the year. The volume significantly drops off every year at the end of the year. I'm going to show you that real quick just so you get an idea of it. We'll scroll back. This is the Nasdaq volume chart. We'll scroll back to last year, and you can see if you line up the end of December there's 4 days with really low volume. Usually the last day, it has to be a whole day, is New Year's Eve. That day might have some volume, just some late tax maneuvering. So if you look at those days last year, Nasdaq volume was 650 million. That's the half day at Christmas Eve. Then the next day coming in was barely over 800 million. That's not tradable volume. And then barely 1.2 and 1.2 after that. So that's the week between Christmas and New Year's, and that's why we don't have to post any daily chart picks or anything like that because nobody's playing. We'll still be around in the morning to try to do something, but that's about it. People take that week largely off. And of course, you never know this year. Maybe something will change. So we'll check in every day for sure. Charts, as usual, brought to you by eSignal. If you've not taken a trial of our services, feel free to do so. We do have some specials running right now through the end of the year, so you can get your tax write-off this year for your education next year. Everybody have a great trading week.